So one of my new hobbies is, I guess you could call it a hobby, is going to be learning how to make knives. And I don't know a lot about the knife making process, but I'm learning slowly but surely. And one of the things I wanted to buy to accompany this hobby is an anvil. And I have, I cannot believe the experience I have had buying an anvil. And obviously I got one, but that's certainly not what I set out to get. I guess this is a great example of expectations versus reality. So the anvil aftermarket is really quite interesting. It's the antique anvils that are of any quality are selling for big money, high dollars. Didn't expect them to cost as much as they do, and it's still cheaper than going and buying a brand new one of the same quality. And new ones of the same quality would probably cost you thousands of dollars. The antique anvils that are in good shape range from a couple $100 all the way up to thousands as well. So it's really a game about how big of an anvil that you want to buy, the name brand of the anvil, and then the condition that it's in, and just how desirable it is. So I've had some interesting experiences on eBay trying to buy one, which is where I've been looking, and I did purchase one. So it was a 150-pound hay Budden anvil. It was in pretty good condition, and I won the auction and went for a pretty high price. But the seller canceled the transaction. And so this is tied up in eBay court, I guess you could say, and I'm still in the process of disputing that charge and trying to get my money back for that. Well, in the interim, I found another anvil, which is the one you're looking at here, and this is a 72-pound Trenton Anvil that I bought on eBay. It was an auction, but I didn't have to pay freight because it was local delivery. I was the only one that bid on it, and I consider myself lucky, and I went and picked it up from the guy. So a quick shout out to the guy who I bought the anvil from. So this anvil's been in his family for a long time. It was his dad's anvil. His dad's the one that used it, and his dad's also the one that made this stand. So his dad handed it down to him, and it's been in the family for a long time. So no, it was hard to part ways with this thing, but I promise it's going to go to good use. So I'm going to keep looking for an anvil, and it's just have to be patient with it. So I talked to a guy, and if you want to see some pictures, I'll put a picture up here in a second. I talked to a guy who's an anvil dealer. I didn't even know such a thing existed. And he deals with these things, been doing this for like 15, 16 years, and he showed me some pictures that he has of just like a like sea of anvils, which is pretty cool. So let me show you that picture real quick. So he told me that the good anvils, the antique anvils that are in good condition, like the name brand, like the Hay Buddens, he said he can get up to $20 a pound for those things. I always heard that anvils were between $2 and $5 a pound, and I can tell you that is not true. That is not the case at all. They're much more expensive than that, and I'm just really surprised by this aftermarket for anvils, for the antique anvils. So when I got this anvil, it was the right price at the right place at the right time, and like I said, it's going to get me working. But it's not in the greatest shape, and the anvil and the stand were actually pretty rusty when I first got them, and I had to do a lot of cleanup work. And then I altered this stand just a little bit to allow for the chains and the tie down. So let me walk you through the process of what I did with this anvil and show you. Alright, so this is the base that came with the anvil, and it looks to be rebar, and that top plate right there, that thing's got to be a ½ inch thick, and the anvil fits real nice in there. So it's a pretty nice stand. I plan to keep it, and I'm going to wire wheel it down, get it cleaned up, probably put a coat of paint on it. Alright, I should have noticed this before, but as I was painting this thing, I noticed that the base is a little uneven. See if you can see that. And that is certainly not what you want when you're hitting on an anvil. The base has to be pretty solid. So What I'm planning to do is to just put a shim under there, and you can see I tried a couple different thicknesses of steel. So I'm going to cut that shim down and weld it onto that corner on the bottom, and that pretty much takes that rock out of that thing. Pretty stable. All right, kind of a rough patch job, but there's my little shim. Looks pretty good. Let's see if it works. So definitely took the wobble out of this stand. Still got a little bit in there, but much improved. Hey Jake, what are you doing, buddy? Jake's checking out what I'm doing. All right, back to painting. So one of the problems with this stand is that the anvil is limited in motion. It won't fall off because of these things, but there's no way to really secure it to the stand. And so I put a chain around it, but the chain, because these were out to here and square, the chain just hit that piece of metal. So I cut them down and kind of rounded them off like that. And now the chain, when it comes around the base of the anvil, it's actually going to push down on the anvil and not just this piece of metal here. So the other thing that I made is these, I didn't really make them, I just cut some angle iron and drilled a hole in it. But this will go something like that, and I'm going to weld those on. And then through that hole goes an eye bolt, and the eye bolt will pull down on the chain when I loop the chain through the eye. So that's how I'm going to secure the anvil to the stand. So it already can't go anywhere because of these pieces, but it's not secured to the stand. So this chain and angle iron will make it really become one with the stand. All right, there she is mounted, and she is looking good and ready for work. This idea here with the chain and the hook really worked out well. So this is the piece of metal that used to be out and square, and so the chain wouldn't push down on the anvil. But now that I kind of tapered them on both sides, the chain is actually putting downward force on the anvil itself, and that is making it, I mean, just really solid. Let me just give you a quick overview of this thing, and you can see the top edge there is pretty rough. One of the things that you should look for if you are buying an anvil is one that has as clean of an edge as possible. If they're an old anvil, this one is probably 100 years old. You're not going to get perfect edges, and if you do have perfect edges, then you're going to pay a premium price for it. But this thing's overall in pretty good shape. And again, it's a 72-pound Trenton, so it's not a big anvil, but I think it's going to be fine for my uses. Prior to getting this anvil, I had actually acquired a stump, and when I say acquired, it was given to me by a friend of mine that I work with that had a massive white oak tree cut down, and I was going to mount the anvil on this, but it came with its own stand, so I'm kind of saving this for anvil number 2. And this thing is massive. So there's a Bud Light can. That gives you an idea of just how big it is. So it's really big, and obviously too tall. I'll have to cut it down, but it's ready to go for anvil number 2. So I'm going to keep looking for a second anvil, but in the meantime, this one can get me working and get me some practice. I'm excited about this venture and excited about learning some new things about making knives and you know, forging metal. So that's pretty cool. So if you like this video, stay tuned because I'll have much more coming in the future. I'm gonna either make or buy a forge. I'm gonna either make or buy a foundry, and then I'll get going and start trying to forge some metal. See what it's all about. So if you like the video, you like the content of the channel, hit that subscribe button. Hey, thanks for watching.